The whole exercise will continue until we do not have legal aliens.
Kasarani now gazetted as a police station as government deports 82 illegal immigrants.
And top security measures are ordered to stem radicalization in schools.
Kama kikwetu kama hujaolewa mahali ama umeolewa na umewachana na bwana unaletwa tu kwa nyumba yenu.
Will Obama's relatives forgive him if he misses Zaituni's funeral in Kogelo?
Also drama as Nyeri women are accused of shoplifting loads of shoe polish.
This is KTN Prime with Nancy Kachungira and Ben Kitili.
The terror crackdown continues. Days come, but an uneasy calm nevertheless, as Kenyans bravely hold up against the tide of terror.
Even as hopes are rising with each and every day that it's not just the calm before the storm, there is appreciation for the action that has been taken by the government.
And this is with the conviction that it is decisive action that will stem this tide of terror.
KTN's incisive coverage on the war against terror continues.
"82 people have been deported to Somalia following the ongoing security operation in Isli.
472 people are still being held by the police, and this comes as the government now gazettes Kasarani Stadium as a police station.
And as KTN's Rita Tinina reports, the media and human rights organizations were for the very first time allowed to catch a glimpse of the screening process at Kasarani.
Since the Isli security operation began, Kasarani Stadium, which was transformed into a screening ground for those arrested, has remained a no-go zone, at least for the media, human rights organizations and aid agencies, amid claims of human rights violations. To try and clear its name, the government invited the media and human rights organizations on a tour of the screening area.
No individuals are sleeping here as it was indicated earlier.
On arrival at Kasarani, those arrested are booked into the occurrence book. They are then taken into the screening room. Here, their documents are verified by several agencies, including the Immigration Department, the National Registration Bureau, and the Refugee Registration Center. The National Intelligence Service, the military, and the police are also involved in the screening process. Those who fail the test are taken to another interrogation.
We have also released individuals who have appropriate documents, and those who have refugee documents are taken to the refugee camps.
The government, which on Monday announced it had screened over 3,000 people, will not give the numbers of those released or taken to refugee camps, but is certain that 82 people have been deported to Somalia.
The ambassador of Somalia to Kenya was part of the team that escorted the aliens to their country.
The government says 472 people are being held at various police stations in the city, and at the time of the tour, 101 were at Kasarani, which has now been transformed into a police station.
We have gazetted this place as a police station where screening of those who have been arrested in the soup are being undertaken.
The security operation in the city continued as a man who was arrested in Isli over the possession of 47 passports and who was arraigned in court on Tuesday was released. Abdi Haji Mohammed was released on a 2 million shilling cash bail. It was the first time that the media and human rights organizations were being allowed into the screening grounds at Kasarani. But not even the hurried media tour will serve to silence the critics, with the spotlight firmly remaining on the country's newest police station. Rita Tinina, KTN, Kasarani.
So the Ministry of Education has released a raft of new measures to be taken following the threat of radicalization of students in schools. A circular has been sent to all county directors of education with steps that should be taken by all school managers in Kenya. Let's learn more from Najma Ismail.
After revelations that at least 18 schools in the country are being used by the Al-Shabaab to radicalize young learners, the government has decided to step up the watch over school children. Education Cabinet Secretary Professor Jacob Kaimenyi has formed a special task force that will investigate such schools.
We are doing some investigations to establish that indeed that this is happening or not happening.
Kaimenyi appointed Leah Rotich from the Ministry of Education, Judith Bonya from the Public Service Commission, Julius Otundo, a representative from the private schools, Betty Kimani from KEPSA, and Lawrence Njagi, the Kenya Publishers Chairman, as committee members in the task force.
One of the key functions of this council is to ensure standards and maintain quality in institutions of basic education.
Circulars have also been sent to all county directors of education and district education officers, directing all head teachers to be alert to any activities in the school that could contribute to radicalization. The ministry says all school managers, to ensure all their teachers are registered by the Teacher Service Commission. They should also ensure records of all students who transfer into or from a school are up to date, and principals have to state reasons for such transfer. Resource persons in schools will also be carefully vetted, and students will have to be accompanied by teachers when going out for school activities. School management must also ensure that open days and visiting days are supervised and an open register kept for all visitors to the school. Najma Ismail, KTN.
So those are the new measures that are going to be taken to combat radicalization in schools. And that's actually the topic of our Big Q tonight. We're asking you whether you support these new measures that are setting out to combat radicalization.
Indeed, tell us what you think as we continue our special coverage of the security crisis. Send us your yes or no response, plus a brief comment to the number 22155. You can join the conversation via our social media platforms, the Twitter handles at Ben_Kitili, at Kachungira, and at KTN Kenya. Now, the Kasarani Gymnasium has been gazetted into a fully fledged police station to screen illegal immigrants as the country steps up the war on terror. As KTN Samogina reports, the Kasarani venue has had a dramatic year since the pomp and color witnessed there as the Uhuru Kenyatta was sworn in as president.
The Kasarani Gymnasium is full of symbolism to President Uhuru Kenyatta's administration. It is a symbol of assumption of power, and equally the headache that comes with that same power.
I, Uhuru Kenyatta.
April 9th, 2013, the gymnasium plays host to the inauguration of the country's fourth president in a fanfare. But a year down the line, the gazetting of the gymnasium into a police station reflects the heavy responsibility assumed at the same venue the previous year. The war on terror being the Uhuru administration's single biggest challenge. The venue, now a place for screening individuals arrested in police swoops in Nairobi's notorious Eastleigh area. A government's affront to stem the vagaries of terror visited on the country.
We have gazetted this place as a police station where screening of those who have been arrested in the swoop are being undertaken. We want to confirm that no individuals are sleeping here as it was indicated earlier.
It has been a checkered 1 year in office for President Uhuru's war on terror, whose culmination is the establishment of the Kasarani screening point. It has been a baptism by fire. On the 8th of April 2013, just 9 days after his inauguration, 4 armed men walked into the Kwachege Hotel in Garissa, shooting indiscriminately and killing around 6 people. On the 9th of June, nearly simultaneous evening attacks in Eastleigh, Nairobi area and Likoni in Mombasa left at least 15 people injured. It is the Westgate Mall siege that marked Uhuru's darkest moment as president. Gunmen took hostage of the mall, killing nearly 70, injuring more than 100 others. And the attacks will not stop here. They still keep coming.
This is not a place of incarceration or otherwise. So
Kenyan Somalis are also tired of being classified together with refugees and terrorists who hid in Islam and who hid in the ethnicity called Somali. They also want this thing cleaned up.
Security think tanks have questioned the efficacy of the Eastleigh swoops that has necessitated screening of immigrants. They have punched holes on the strategy, stating it lacks the element of surprise and ambush of its targets, and thereby a likelihood of their targets escaping the dragnet is quite high.
The most painful thing to come to here in the future would be we took a Kenyan back to Somalia because there was an error in verification. Of course, at the same time, we don't want to say a Somali was left in Kenya because our faulty verification process showed that they were Kenyans.
9th April 2013 might have been historical as Kenya ushered in her 4th president. 9th April 2014 is equally historical as the country turns a new leaf in fighting terror. 2 quite vital deaths for President Uhuru Kenyatta, separated by a full calendar year.
Exactly 1 year ago, Kasarani Gymnasium was a celebration ground for the inauguration of President Uhuru Kenyatta into office. But the paradox is, 1 year later, it has been turned into a concentration camp to read out terror elements, now posing a headache for President Uhuru Kenyatta. Samugina, KTN at Kasarani, Nairobi.
It is now exactly 1 year since the Jubilee government was sworn into office, and security, or the lack of it, has proven to be one of the biggest headaches that this young administration has had to grapple with for the last 12 months.
The threat of terror has shaken this nation to the core. And tonight, KTN's Ferdinand Omondi begins our series, The Jubilee Scorecard, with a look at this thorn in the flesh of the Jubilee government.
Sheikh Abubakar Sharif alias Makaburi. When news initially spread about his death on the evening of April 1st this year, many thought it was a sadistic April Fool's Day prank. It turned out it was not. Makaburi supporters, or those who analysts have called fundamental Muslims or Salafists, want revenge, life for life, blood for blood. And this has now become a vicious circle. Extremists accusing non-believers of persecuting Islam, after which they savagely attack and kill the innocent at every available opportunity. The response from the police has often been major crackdowns and rounding up of suspects in pursuit of the criminals, followed by mysterious deaths, and after that, accusations and counter-accusations.
Yesterday is nothing short of it being anything else except terrorism.
The government is pretty alert to deal with any individual, to deal with any group, na tutawaswaga wote. Hakuna masi hapa.
The latest crackdown in Eastleigh, Nairobi, to weed out illegal aliens and round up suspects is generating equal heat. At least 1,000 people have been arrested and questioned. Many believe it is justified. Others see it as police harassment and religious profiling, making the fight on terror a really hard nut to crack for the state. The need to stamp out terrorism cannot be overestimated. Thousands of innocent civilians have died at the hands of terrorists who ironically claim theirs is justice. Kenya's first major encounters with terror was by association. The 1998 bomb attack targeted U.S. citizens at their embassy in Nairobi. 213 Kenyans died. In 2002, the bomb that exploded at a hotel in Kikambala along the north coast was targeting Israeli lives, yet incredibly, 14 Kenyans were killed. However, the attack of the Westgate Mall in Nairobi in September 2013 changed the entire narrative. Although it happened at an Israeli-owned mall, this was an attack on Kenyans for Kenya's action. Al-Shabaab had threatened to retaliate for Kenya's incursion into Somalia, and they did. Yet KDF was forced to enter Somalia to protect its citizens and interests following a series of kidnappings in Kenyan territory, especially the coast region, which targeted tourists for ransom. Al-Shabaab remains the biggest terror threat to Kenya, amplified by its affiliation to Al-Qaeda, a global Islamist militant organization born in Pakistan. Sheikh Makaburi is thought to have been a key ally of Al-Shabaab generals in Somalia, supplying them with intelligence, personnel, and possibly coordinating some attacks in his own country. Prior to Makaburi's death, police stormed Masjid Musa and arrested over 100 people. It was a convention which security branded a recruitment exercise. This flag, which has been used by Al-Shabaab, was hoisted defiantly in areas around the mosque. Raiding a mosque was unheard of before and drew sharp reactions, but police insist they have a duty to thwart crime at the source, regardless of the location.
The security agents will do everything possible to ensure that Kenyans living in this county live safely.
The audacity across the board has strengthened the resolve of others. And I think it is extremely a dangerous trend.
There is no way we can have unharmed Kang and we say the police can go and arrest empty-handed. We have to deal with them very firmly.
This year alone, the country has already suffered an attack in which gunmen raided and killed 4 people at a church in Likoni in the South Coast. Police maintained it was a normal crime, but later hunted down the suspects and shot them dead. Police have also smothered what could have been a mass attack by intercepting 6-cylinder bombs with 173 kilograms of TNT, among other ammunition. While the war on terror must be fought, the manner in which it is being fought remains a tight debate that, if not handled well, could be harmful to the nation's social fabric. The unsolved killings of radical preachers has also reduced goodwill in the war on terror amid allegations of extrajudicial killings and human rights abuses. A battle that the Jubilee government has failed to win in the first year in office, but is still facing a huge battle to eventually win the war on terror. Ferdinand Omondi, KTN, Mombasa.
Has been said about the progress of the Jubilee government 1 year after taking office. But what does the opposition coalition have to report 1 year since the 11th Parliament began? Well, as KTN's Patrick Amimo reports, the tyranny of numbers has made things rather dicey for the Court coalition. Here's the story.
Asanteni sana. As the Jubilee government marks 1 year in office, the CORD coalition says it will continue defending devolution because it was one of its key pledges to Kenyans.
Sisi wana CORD, mambo ya ungatusi hatuwezi kunegotiate. Hiyo hatuwezi.
Ya CORD imekuwa mstari wa mbele kwanza kulinda serikali za devolution, na hizo ambazo zimeweza kuleta mabadiliko makubwa katika maeneo tofauti ya nchi hii.
In the National Assembly, CORD lawmakers have faced the challenge of blocking some of the government-sponsored bills, which they argued could be a burden to the taxpayer or a drain on the economy. This has seen members walk out on occasion to express their frustration.
We were very much opposed from the beginning on this issue of laptop project. And this project has been pushed through because of the tyranny of numbers in the House. Otherwise, CORD had even brought an amendment to reallocate the funds and to have it spent in a more structured way. We disagreed with the position of Jubilee, our colleagues from the Jubilee, on withdrawal from ICC, which the Jubilee administration went, through their tyranny in Parliament, went ahead and passed a resolution to withdraw from ICC. I'm happy and I thank God that that has not materialized. I think they have since realized their mistakes.
In an attempt to confront the tyrant of numbers, CORD lawmakers have had to lobby their colleagues in the government side on some controversial bills to win support. This was witnessed in December last year when CORD MPs convinced their colleagues in Jubilee to reject an amendment to the Public Benefit Organization bill that sought to cap the amount of foreign funding to NGOs at 15% of their budget.
the gains we have realized as a country in terms of opening space for the civil society would have been taken away overnight. And that, because of the court's resilience, we made sure that it did happen. And for the first time, the government lost a motion sponsored by government in the House.
A section of CORD MPs said Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka would have ensured a strong opposition if they had opportunity to lead their troops in calling shots inside Parliament.
Actually, if they were in Parliament, I think we would see a much more organized, vibrant, because we would have our leadership in Bunge.
The opposition says it has always cited areas where they feel the government could have done better, especially on security and corruption.
It worries greatly when government behaves in a manner to suggest that the left hand does not know what the right hand is doing.
The CORD coalition lawmakers believe that their counterparts in the Jubilee coalition will rely less on their tyrant of numbers as the honeymoon period between them and the executive comes to a close. This will also contribute to informed debate on matters of national importance in the National Assembly. Patrick Amimo, KTN, Nairobi.
Certainly a tough year for the minority coalition CORD. They'll be hoping for a better year. In other news, the family of Zaituni Obama, the aunt of U.S. President Barack Obama, will handle funeral arrangements for her burial. This is according to Mustafa Obama, the U.S. President's half-brother, who is based in Kogelo in the county of Siaya. KTN's Fredo Mulo has the details.
Security remains tight at Mama Sarah's home in Kogelo, where a few friends and family gathered to mourn the death of Zaituni Obama. Zaituni, who had been suffering from breast cancer and a respiratory ailment, passed away on Monday at Kindred Nursing and Rehabilitation Center in Boston.
Lakini nafikiri ataletwa hapa kwa sababu hapa ndio nyumbani sasa. Unajua kama kikwetu kama hujaolewa mahali ama umeolewa na umewachana na bwana unaletwa tu kwa nyumba yenu. Sasa nafikiri ataletwa tu hapa. Atazikwa tu hapa kwa boma yao kando kwa nini. Hawezi zikwa ndani ya boma.
According to Luo tradition, she will be buried at her home in Kindu Bay, where she was married to her husband who died in the year 2000. The couple had 3 sons and a daughter. However, the Kogelo Obamas are considering burying her at a cemetery in Kisumu in case she is rejected at Kindu Bay, since she had differences with her husband before he died.
Sarah, now she's fine. Yeah, but when she got the news, she was a bit shocked. You know, as it happens when you lose your child. But now she's stabilized. Now she's okay. So that's why she was saying when we've done the arrangements and we've known when the body is coming, that's when she'll be able to talk to you guys.
Mustafa said the family is in contact with the late Zaituni's brother Onyango Omar Obama, who lives in the U.S. and is planning on how their aunt's body will be airlifted to Kenya. They have requested the U.S. president to attend his aunt's funeral and are preparing to welcome him and other high-profile guests in case he honors the invitation. Reporting for KTN, I am Fredo Mulo.
And now to a new milestone for broadcast media in the region.
And KTN has today moved to expand its reach in East Africa through a partnership agreement with leading Ugandan TV station NBS.
The deal, which was signed in Kampala, will involve content exchange, equipment sharing, as well as training.
NBS Television is an independent station based in Kampala, but with a wide reach in Uganda.
It does have some of the most watched news, current affairs, and sports shows in Uganda.
KTN hopes to tap into NBS's rapid growth in Uganda to reach a wider audience in a more integrated East African region.
NBS, on the other hand, will benefit from KTN's long experience in the broadcast industry and high-quality programs.
Is seen today as the authoritative and independent news channel. They trust KTN News, and once KTN says something, people will believe in it. The same way people believe in NBS, we are going to have our own reporters, our own producers go see what KTN does. The same way KTN will send their reporters and their people to work with us here.
We are coming together as equals. We have looked at MBS as a partner, and we have come together as a standard group, and we are saying, as far as this region, as far as the region that we represent are concerned, there's a lot that we can do together. And that cooperation spans both exchanges in terms of people visiting the respective entities, in terms of sharing content, in terms of sharing equipment.
Welcome back to KTN Prime.
Now, remember Dan Oira, now the higher secondary school student, stole the show yet again as he entertained the audience at the third day of the National Drama Festivals. Oira was last year dubbed Otonglo Boy after his captivating performance. He captured the nation's attention with a poem that earned him an invite to perform before President Uhuru Kenyatta at State House, Nairobi. Now, the president offered to sponsor him throughout his secondary school education. The festivals are set to end on April 16th.
The last thing had to go on without further ado or further ado. The gate which upon the Situna protest was cut, and we attacked it with the hangover Man United supporters who was in the English Premier League table. Saba Saba, eh? Saba Saba. That is irrelevant.
Good evening and welcome to a special edition of KTN Business. Today is exactly 1 year. I almost said 100 days. It's 1 year since the Jubilee government took office, and we're taking stock of what exactly they've been doing. And sitting with me today is the Cabinet Secretary for Energy and Petroleum, Davis Chirchir. Karibu sana. Bwana Waziri, when the Jubilee government took office, you had a huge promise, and I can just quote it from your manifesto. The Jubilee promised to create reliable energy by existing national grid network and promoting renewable energy. How far are you in delivering this promise?
Thank you, Bonnie. We came into office 1 year today. I remember the swearing-in ceremony at the Kasarani Stadium on the 9th of April, which was exactly 1 year today. And the cabinet secretaries were sworn in on the 15th of May. We, as soon as I came into this privileged appointment, we quickly mapped out the power matrix because we recognize that for this country to stay competitive and be able to take advantage of that in the manufacturing sector, in making Kenya a competitive destination, we mapped out a power matrix. We recognize that power cost in Kenya is very high and is not good for manufacturing sector. It doesn't help the economy. Even if power comes to our home today, paying those bills at the cost of power is very high. So we mapped out a generation matrix that will basically bring out what we have termed as 5,000 plus megawatts, but it was not so much about the number. It was about the matrix that will bring out the cost of power down. At a cost of the denomination of almost 20 cents US for the domestic user today, and 14 cents for industry.
The viewers can appreciate the figures that you're talking about. That's the mapping that you're talking about.
And for industry today, we did bring out that matrix that brings out 5,000, still quite renewable, 61% renewable, where we're going to generate 1,600 megawatts of power through geothermal, another 1,900 megawatts on coal, because we have our own coal in Kitui. Those two plants of 960, each one is in Lamu and Kitui. Another 700, quite a significant amount of power coming in through LNG, a plant.
So obviously the 5,000 figure was not coming from geothermal or hydro as we know it.
It is a power matrix that has been defined, but very importantly that brings out the cost. So having identified the strategic, what you would call the strategic policy initiatives that would address the Jubilee administration competitiveness for this economy, and which we promised Kenyans, we have mapped out work programs that defines and brings out the delivery of the 5,000 megawatts, and more importantly, bring out and bring down the cost by 40%. in the next 40 months.
Waziri, looking at what we have on our screen right now, there's a clear framework and plan of getting to the 5,000 mark as our target. But also critics have called out the Ministry of Energy, and especially when you're talking about power generation, in regards to the long bureaucratic processes of approval of tenders, of getting the people to supply this kind of services. How much do they affect your timelines?
I'm not really worried about the timelines, because after putting out the timelines and approving those timelines through cabinet, we have gone through a framework of independent power producers.
Right.
We have gone to tender today. We expression of interest. We have since evaluated and closed and awarded or selected the best companies who can deliver on that matrix.
Right.
As we speak today, we are waiting like for the 700 megawatts to close the bids on the 15th of this month.
Right.
For the 960 megawatts, we are closing the bids on the 23rd. And I can assure you, having an approved roadmap, and for which many Kenyans may not understand, power generation is not about an event. It is a process.
It's a process.
And to be able to generate 5,000 megawatts in those 40 months, or under 3 years today, we've been told it is extremely ambitious. And for us, we have to do things out of the ordinary.
Right.
So we are on course.
That's the spirit of Jubilee.
We are on course.
Right.
And I can assure Kenyans here now and that even as we speak, the delivery for the first 12 months of about 18 months of 540 megawatts, we are on course.
Waziri, you've mentioned independent power producers in your speech and in your plan to rope them and just gunning at the 5,000 mark as our target. Looking back, independent power producers have been bedeviled, and they have said we're not operating at a level playing field, we're not giving equal space. Are there specific steps that the Jubilee government under your watch have taken to ensure that these people have level playing ground?
I think, again, very important. Thank you for that. Because power generation is a very profitable business, what we've done is we've got many investors who want to generate power.
Right.
And because the demand side of the power must be very critically checked to make sure we don't have stranded generate power, which is you call stranded power.
Right.
Power which is generated and which you can't sell to the economy, but for which it must be paid for. We have taken the IPPs, the independent power producers, through a competitive process. The competitive process will demand that the company who knows how to manage cost, who have got the best conversion turbines, and who can give us the best cost of power, would be appointed to generate power for the economy.
Right.
So we are looking at really using the best IPPs rather than single sourcing, taking them through competition.
When you talk about the best IPPs, are we talking multinationals or are we talking Kenyans? Who exactly fits into that description?
I think they've been open both for local and internationals, and we've seen consortiums of both local companies and international companies coming to do this. Power generation is very expensive. You're talking about $1 million to generate 1 megawatt of power.
Right.
Anything between $1 million, depending on the generation mode, whether it is hydro, up to $4 million per megawatt. So locals have come together in partnership with multinationals to be able to do this.
Right.
And we want to encourage that, even as we do the other generation modes, which we have not advertised, we want to encourage our locals to play ball and ensure that they
Waziri, we have to shift gears a little bit, but you've talked of generating power. Let's talk a little bit about selling it. And Kenya Power has come under sharp criticism from a lot of people watching right now. Under your tenure, are we going to see a time where we'll have an independent distributed license to compete with Kenya Power?
We would love to have that, but like I came from telecommunication, and you know what happened to the wireline telephone company, because it's very difficult to strand the whole country on cables. This is the challenge. We don't have a technology today where you can distribute power using like frequency in telecommunication. The biggest challenge we have is the transmission, distribution, and the reticulation, the network.
So you reckon
which
if we
brings
have
power,
a private player in this space, then probably we'll have a boost in efficiency?
It would be.
Right.
But what we are doing, as we recognize with the distribution of the kind of megawatts we are trying to generate, is it is necessary to improve the capacity of Kenya Power.
Right.
We need to work on our transmission. We recognize there is a challenge. We need to work on the distribution. Even without the users of power recognizing that there is a quality challenge, the power that is fed to Kenya Power, you call it the off-taker,
right,
will have so much losses.
Right.
So if you buy 100 megawatts, by the time you are distributing to your home and my industry and the end user, you are possibly only selling 80 megawatts.
Right.
And yet you bought 100 megawatts. You have to pay for the 100 which you bought.
Right.
So you have to make sure that the distribution network is efficient so that the losses are minimal.
Right.
We are currently working on building a transmission network of 400 megawatts, 400 kV, kilovolt lines. When you do engineering, you'll understand that when you do high voltage, you can do very low current,
right,
and therefore you minimize the losses.
Right. Let's shift gears very quickly. Let's talk about the cost of energy for movement right now. Let's talk about fuel and petroleum right now. Transformation of KPRL from a refinery to what it is now. We can't really term it if it's a marketing or it's a storage facility, but that particular move was supposed to save Kenyans at least 10 shillings in regards to what they pay at the pump. We haven't seen that. What went wrong?
I think on the side of petroleum products, we are doing quite well. Petroleum products are controlled, their world prices.
Right.
And we have a very competitive open tender system,
right,
which allows the best oil marketing company to bring in the product and distribute to the rest of the oil marketing companies. So there is a very clear open competition. At the time of KPRL, because of the age of the refinery, we were not able to really give Kenyans very clean products,
right,
very high sulfur content, and we were loading a cost of up to 7 to 10 shillings per liter. That is not happening today.
So
to the extent of the cost today,
yes,
it will be having a premium, not so much of 10 shillings, because they were not bringing 100% of the product.
Right.
They were basically doing about 20%.
But was it everyone agrees that we need a strategic storage of sorts, if I may use layman's term, so that every time global prices change, they don't have to affect us? We don't see a lot of commitment from the government in that.
We are working on a lot of tank farms. One of the options that we have for KPRL would be to use the tank farms once we finish with our investor ESA,
right,
who we are still negotiating on what you call deed of termination.
Right.
Once we finalize that, we'll possibly be using that tank farm as a storage facility that offers that strategic store, and that will help us in managing the price. But it cuts both ways. It cuts both ways.
Right.
You can buy product this month,
right,
and while you have that product in store, the prices internationally goes down.
Right.
You will still have to recoup and cover the cost for which. So it cuts both ways.
Right. Final question. I know our time is out and my director will kick me out, but Tal Oil last year paid about 700 in terms of the taxes for exploration. Everyone is wondering, are we getting value for our money in regards to all the people exploring, and we get all the news happening? But my direct question would be, do we have a well laid out plan of revenue sharing between the government, which would be Kenyans, and these people?
We have a very clear established international framework,
right,
called production sharing contract, which is laid out in CAP 308, the Petroleum Act,
right,
which defines how profits are shared. In the production sharing contract, Bonnie, it defines that you come in and explore with your own money.
Correct.
Very risky upstream exploration. But when you are successful, you are apportioned what we call cost oil,
right,
to recover the cost of exploration. And the profit oil apportion up to 78%, depending on the daily production rate, will go to government, and some 22%.
So you can assure Kenyans
so I can assure Kenyans
what
that
we're getting is
it is
value
according
for our
to the
money.
act passed by Parliament.
Right.
We are managing costs to make sure that we capture the accounts properly. And I can assure you the framework under which Kenya is working is based on knowledge that has been established over time,
right,
by some of our other countries who got the oil earlier and may not have done it very well.
Right. Waziri, to your frustration in mind, this conversation has to end now, but many thanks for just showing up and helping us give an audit of what your ministry is doing. I've been speaking to Davis Chirchir, who is the Cabinet Secretary in charge of Energy and Petroleum. It's been exactly 100 days since he took office, and he's been just shedding light as to exactly what his ministry has been doing. Very quickly, let's move to what is happening in business headlines. And Kenya Airports Authority has been fully compensated by APA following last year's fire tragedy. Here's KTN's Philip Keitani with that report.
The August 2013 dawn inferno nearly brought business at one of Africa's busiest airports. Months later, the Kenya Airports Authority says they are ready to put out the bad memory.
KA has already invited bids for a contractor to put down the arrivals building. It was condemned, and we are going to put it down and the redesign unit 1, 2, and 3.
The demolition, the authority says, should be done in another 2 to 3 months, with the tender already awarded. This will enable them actualize the expected redesign alongside other terminals at the airport.
In terms of infrastructure projects, we have spent a lot of money. Some of it is our own money. The rest we have borrowed.
The airport too has been fully compensated for the fire incident, with APA paying a total of 1.9 billion shillings. An interim $500 million shillings was paid in December 2013.
I don't think that there has been, up to this time, any greater or bigger settlement of this magnitude. So it's the industry.
Works at the airport are at an advanced stage to spruce it up to expected international standards. Philip Keitan, KTN Business.
KTN Business in association with Safaricom Business.
Jisot na Samsung Galaxy S3 Lite for 5,000 bonga points and 6,999 shillings. Available at all Safaricom shops countrywide.
Well, let's recap our top story for you. 82 people have been deported to Somalia following the ongoing security operation in Eastleigh. 472 people are still being held by the police and
detained at the Nyeri police station. The 3 are said to have been part of a group of 5, but 2 managed to escape. The smartly dressed women were later taken to the Nyeri police station.
Nimekuja tu leo. Saidiwe. Saidiwe sasa.
2 months ago, we lost 1.5 carton of the same product, kiwi.
That's an unfortunate story, but
Kenyan Premier League, Bahamas has assured teams set to participate in the inaugural World Relays and Sprints Championships that they will experience world-class sprinting culture. The championships is just 45 days away, and Kenya is set to send a strong squad. Kenyan sprinters are busy polishing their skills ahead of the World Relays Championships national trials set for April 26th. It may be the first time the 2-day championship will be held, but it's generating a lot of interest among Kenyan athletes who are keen on testing their sprinting abilities against the best short-distance runners in the world. 2000 Sydney Olympics champion in the 200 meters race, Pauline Davis, paid a courtesy call to some of the athletes preparing for the trials, where she shared some insights as well as techniques in sprinting.
And I truly believe that you do have great sprinters here. They are somewhere out there. I think it's because you focus a little bit too much more on the middle and the long distance.
The Bahamas Athletics Association vice chair is in the country as part of our Africa familiarization tour. Davis challenged Athletics Kenya to pay as much attention to the sprints as it does to the middle and long distance races, and expressed confidence that Bahamas will host a successful event.
We have a passion and an undying love for relay sprinting. We love relay, and I can tell you this, that when you come to the Bahamas, it's going to be pure pandemonium in that national stadium.
The national trials on the 26th of this month will bring down curtains on the weekend meetings.
We're going to look at what we call it, the current form, the current standings in the world, and we pick the best out of that. The techniques will come later.
And the national women's rugby sevens team, the Lionesses, promising to teach the visiting teams long-lasting rugby lessons. The Lionesses opened their Confederation of African Rugby campaign against Madagascar on Saturday. Kenya is in the same group as defending champions South Africa, Senegal, and Madagascar. The Confederation of African Rugby Cup will be played in Machakos.
Kenya's Lionesses are among 8 African-based women's sevens rugby teams set to battle out for the continental diadem during the Saturday's Confederation of African Rugby Cup.
4, 2, 1, 3.
The Lionesses' lessons from Hong Kong have sharpened the host, who have promised to sparkle in front of the home supporters.
When we went to Hong Kong, ilikuwa like a build-up match. Na niko very sure zile vitu tumekuwa tukifanya tukiwork very hard.
South Africa, Uganda, Senegal, Zimbabwe, Tunisia, and Madagascar are all expected to be hard nuts to crack. In Pool B, Zimbabwe under their head tactician Abigail Kwanza rates Kenya highly, but remains clear that it will not be a walk in the park for any team.
When everybody's shouting for you, you actually run the extra mile. So they've got an edge over everybody else, but it's going to be a big competition for them as well.
We are going for nothing less than the finals.
Kenya is in Pool A together with defending champions South Africa, Senegal, and Madagascar. And according to award, the South Africans are beatable.
And I know this one moving forward, we're going to put up the same fight. And this time we are anticipating to win it, not them being on top of us.
Pool B has last year's beaten finalists Tunisia, Uganda, Zimbabwe, and Namibia. The one-day affair will be hosted at the Kenyatta Stadium in Machakos County Saturday 12th. After failing to impress during their last international outing in Hong Kong, the Kenyan Lionesses will be out to redeem themselves, and they hope to do so in front of the home fans. Moses Wahesi, KTN Sports.